take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's value she'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years.
Welcome. It sounds very hollow in here because it is. This is the basement of our little white house, which we're going to be turning into a workshop. And this is the very first of my episodes on how I fix sewing machines. Not a professional, not even pretending to be on YouTube, just someone who enjoys them. And what I like to do is take ones who have seen better days. The machines that are, locked up and frozen and abandoned and somewhat rusted and gunked up and ugly. The paint is chipped, the decals are worn. And take them apart, paint them, decorate them, and put them back together so they can run for another lifetime. So, this is the first one. This is a Goodrich B. One of my sewing videos on my Bucolic Life channel that I have. I found it in my basement. It is from the 1800s. It's a treadle machine, a shuttle treadle machine, okay? And it was completely locked up. And I kind of got it somewhat freed, but I decided I'm gonna make a project out of her. So, what I did is I have stripped all of the components out. On the machine, the main shaft is still in there, and one of these is in here. The fork is out. This one that has to do with the stitch length, all of that, that is still on there. Then I mask off all of the parts that don't get paint. And inside here, you can't see, but there is some paper shoved in there. And I paint them. But first, before I paint them, I totally strip it down. So just to show you what I've used, I have a can of stripper, and that is what I used to remove the paint. It took many layers of application and a wire brush, a lot of paper towels, and wiping down, okay? But it's possible to remove all of that black. Once you do that, you wipe it down with some mineral spirits to stop any chemical reaction going on with the stripper. This is the paint that I'm using on this machine. Okay, it is white. I was looking for more pearl like my Meister machine, but they were out of stock, so we're using this white, all right? And it takes several coats. So what I have on the machine right now is the third coat. And I like to apply several coats, very light. I wait a full day at least in between coats to let it dry. So that is what products we have on here so far. Hello everybody. So for this video, I am going to be applying decals to a machine that I'm going to be naming Rose, and you will see why soon. Rose started off her life as a Goodrich B treadle machine that I acquired at some point, stored her in the basement, and then recently found her again. She had a lot of issues, and one of her issues is she had a stuck main shaft back here. And through a whole lot of trial and error and help sites and kind people on sewing machine restoration sites, I was able to get all that freed up. And now it's time to go ahead and make her beautiful. So I will be showing a before and after when I'm all done. Not really going to be working too much on the mechanics of this right now for this video as much as the decals. Now I have previously stripped off all of her gear and masked her up, painted her. I totally stripped off all of her paint chemically, and she has probably about 5 coats of paint on right now. She does not have her final clear coat on yet, though. I'm not going to be doing that until after I get her decals on, set, and cured. But if you want to see, like, if you can see that this has its final clear coat on, and it does have a shine to it. So when I turn the camera on her and you go, oh my gosh, she's so plain, that's because she doesn't have her clear coat on yet. So anyhow, let me go ahead and turn the camera down onto Rose. So just to let you know, I had a couple issues with her paint. At first I tried to just roughly sand down the existing painter, which has worked with other machines in the past, but it did not like whatever it was sticking to. And every machine seems to be having a different kind of coat, and paints will react differently. So what I have discovered is that it is just, for me, safer to completely, if I'm going to be painting them, to strip them down to bare metal so that I don't have to worry what kind of chemical reaction my paint is going to be having with an underlayer. Because there's been times that I've gotten like 2 or 3 coats, I go to put the 4th coat on, and then all of a sudden everything goes, you know, which is not fun. So this is her right now, and I have a whole sheet of fabulous decals. So let me go ahead and show you the decals that I bought. It's a full sheet of different rose type of decals with a little dream catcher in the middle. And then I have some assorted other ones to keep adding, you know, because I want to just make this lovely with decals. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut them out with my scissors, and I cut them out leaving, you know, maybe 1 millimeter, 2 at the most, around the rough edges. Once I have them cut out, then I can strategically place them. So when I have it cut out, it basically looks like this, where I just have a little bit of the white showing all the way around the design. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest of my decals. Alright, so I've got all of my decals cut out. I have not figured out where they're all going to go yet, but what I usually like to do is start with one on the back, and I am throwing them all over the place here. So let me get something chosen to put on the back here first, because if I can tell how it's going to adhere and everything back here, usually there's a motor right here, so that's where I like to start. With this one, it's a treadle. It has no boss, so I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to make this work without being in a treadle cabinet, but you know what, we're going to figure that out. But I'll probably put something down around here first. So what I'm going to start with is this big lovely one, and I'm going to be putting it right here so it kind of wraps around. I think that that's going to be nice, and being on the back, it's a good place for me to start trying these out. So if you've never dealt with the Waterslide decals before, it's very easy, it's very fun. I have a little dish here that has water in it, just plain water, and I get a paintbrush, a clean paintbrush. I know it looks blue, but that's just stain. And you need to set your decal in the water. It's going to want to curl, you know, about a minute, maybe less, maybe more. The area that I'm going to be putting it on with my paintbrush, I just paint a little bit of water on there just to get some moisture. Some people spray it with Windex or something. I find that works pretty well. Over here, I just kind of keep track of this, and as soon as my decal gets to the point where the top layer wants to start sliding off the paper backing, then I know that it's time to start applying it. So this is a pretty big one, so I want it to move fairly freely before I get started, because it's easy to rip them, you know, and I think, actually, while I was playing with it here, I think I already did start to rip it, but all right, it's starting to slide. If you can see, I can kind of move it off, all right? So what I'm going to do is try to place it on here. Oh, where did I want it? Ooh, you know what? I think I'm going to put it upright. I like that. So I'm placing it pretty much where I want it. I'm going to try to get I'm going to pull it off to the side here. Get a grip on my paper and just start pulling it off while keeping the decal in position. You can move the decal a little bit, so it's not like a one-shot deal. I'm just going to try to slowly put it down, and I can see some little cracks in my design where I kind of yanked it a little ahead of time. So I'm going to try to push those together. If not, it honestly kind of blends with the design, so I'm not worried that badly. Let me get a paper towel here. I'm just going to blot over it. Again, trying to make sure everything is nice and flat. And actually, what I think I'm seeing as a crack is part of the image. So we're good. All right, so I'm just smoothing it out. I'm trying not to rub too hard, but smoothing it out enough because the film on the back has the glue on it, and you want that to stick on nicely without any air bubbles, okay? So there's one, so I can see, yes, this is gonna work well. Very happy about that. In general, once I get them all on here, I let them dry just in place at least a couple hours before I come back with heat. So let me go ahead and get the rest of my decals, get a strategic plan for them, and I will be right back. Okay, so now that they are all on there, I ended up not using the little dream catcher. I couldn't find a place to put it where I could work everything else around it. So I'm going to save this for another future machine. So what I'm going to do is use a just craft quality heat gun to kind of set these, and it's not a requirement. It's usually not on the instructions, but I read on a post where someone was using these on dishes and they would heat them in a low oven to set them on dishes. And I was thinking, well, if that works for dishes, it should definitely work for cast metal. So I'm just going to plug this in and slowly run the heat over each one. Okay, so I'm going to call that good for tonight. Basically, I just put the heat on it until the decal is completely dry, somewhat warm, and I can tell that there are no more water pockets, air pockets, or anything like that in there. I think she's going to be beautiful. So like I said, I'm just going to let her sit overnight. Tomorrow I will take her out to my soon-to-be workshop and paint her probably 2, maybe even 3 coats of clear coat over this, which will protect her and shine her up really well. And then after that, I'll be able to start reassembling her. So anyhow, I'm just introducing you to Rose here. Next time you see her, we're going to start to put all of her goodies back together.
I found an antique sewing machine, forgotten and alone. I touched her rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.